Welcome to our webinar. Today, we're going to talk about BIMI, brand indicators for message identification. When email deliverability isn't enough, how you can turn trust into brand impact. Couple of housekeeping notes and introductions. Yes, we are recording this webinar. Yes, we will share the recording with you after the fact. And let's introduce everybody who's going to join me on our adventure today, starting with Mika Tabata, Senior Product Manager for Valamail. Mika, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all. And thank you all for being part of this webinar. Really glad to share it with you all. I am product manager for Valamail, and I will be sharing with you our BIMI solution named Amplify. And also, I will be bringing you an early access to one of our products that we didn't release yet, but I will talk about that just in a moment. Thank you all, and back to you.
All right, Dean Coughlin is DigiCert's Senior Director of Digital Trust. Dean, would you care to introduce yourself? You are on mute, sir.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Great to be here with you all today. As Al said, my name is Dean Coughlin. I've been working in this industry for about 30 years. And in the last 8 years, we've done a lot of work around verified mark certificates and common mark certificates that we'll be talking about as part of this webinar around BIMI and brand trust. Al, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, sir. Hi, everybody. I'm Al Iverson. I work for DMARC provider Valamail, who's owned by DigiCert. My role here is that of industry and community lead. I don't really know what that means. I talk to a lot of people. I do a lot of weird stuff with data. I help try to show off how important DMARC is, how important BIMI is. I've been working in the email space for a good long time myself. In fact, I look back on my blog to see when is the first time I ever talked about DMARC. That was back in 2012. So I've been knee deep in this whole email authentication and domain protection thing for a while. One more housekeeping note, we would love to hear your questions along the way. Please use the Q&A in the Zoom webinar settings to leave us your questions. We will do our best to answer as many of them as possible. We've got a couple of esteemed colleagues riding shotgun with us, hiding in the background, waiting to help answer some of the questions in the online chat Q&A if we don't get to answer them all live. So please do drop your questions. We love the idea of keeping this interactive. So I want to start with why now? Why are we talking about this whole thing with regard to inbox trust and how that relates to BIMI and what you can do with it? And we're going to start here with sort of the basics of it, and that starts with the email authentication requirements that come from the mailbox providers. Specifically, Maggie are the biggest ones, MAGY, that's Microsoft, Apple, Gmail, and Yahoo. They all require now that bulk email senders, anybody sending a significant amount of mail, use email authentication best practice protocols. That includes SPF, Sender Policy Framework, DKIM, Domain Keys Identified Mail, and of course, DMARC, Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. Say that with me 10 times fast. These are all very important things to help email senders prove that the email they send is really coming from them. It's a very important component of email security, a very important component of email best practices, and it helps mailbox providers protect their users, protects email recipients against phishing and spoofing. Think of all of the growing threats to the inbox that we've seen getting more complex and more sophisticated over time. So from a mailbox provider's perspective, a lot of this is based around best practices when it comes to email security and protection. But at the same time, email senders have an opportunity to, while they comply with these best practice requirements, see some benefit from that. The opportunity there is to be more easily recognizable as legitimate, to as a friend loves to say, to get the deliverability you deserve, to be able to show yourself off as a good sender, to look for the opportunities to make it easier for people to trust your messages, find your messages, connect with your messages. And so I talked about those protocols at a core, right? They layer together to prove that email came from the domain that it shows in the from address. That's what DMARC at its core does, is it ties it all together. It's this layer on top of SPF and DKIM. It's a little bit invisible to the end user, but it helps a mailbox provider. You think Microsoft, you think Apple, Google, Yahoo, all of these places that host email inboxes. It helps them determine good mail from bad mail. And that's why they've tied the ability to get to the inbox so significantly to these technologies. Now, they're not the only thing that is involved when getting mail delivered to the inbox. You can still be a spammer and authenticate with all these protocols. But these protocols make it easier for mailbox providers to identify good mail from bad mail. So you, as a good sender, are putting your best technical foot forward by implementing all of these protocols. And then on top of that, think of what changes have come to the inbox even over the last year or so. I'm thinking specifically about, for example, Gmail's AI inbox, their relevance focused sorting, their prioritization of what they think the messages are going to be most interesting to recipients. The ones that people are most likely to interact with, they're more likely to put it in the inbox or put it at the top of an AI driven inbox based on that that best guess of what the AI can figure out for what's going to be most relevant. And so the bad guys are evolving at the same time too, right? If you think about AI and all of the good things you can do with AI, unfortunately, bad guys can do good things with artificial intelligence as well. And in the realm of email, bad things with email, phishing and spoofing. Think of AI powered tools being utilized by the bad guys to come up with infinite variations of phishing and spoofing copy tailored to specific recipients, tailored based on specific data that they're able to find and pull it together and automate these million data points. And that's kind of scary. That means that the bad guys have these really fancy, intelligent robots trying to figure out how to trick you, how to trick your friends, how to trick your family into clicking on bad links and get your computer taken over, get your accounts taken over, get your financial accounts drained, and otherwise huge negative impacts that come along with that. Now, when we talk about DMARC, what is DMARC? As I said, it's a authentication protocol layered on top of the two core email authentication things to authentication protocols that are used to identify internet email, to validate internet email. DMARC, on top of that, adds three important things: authentication, reporting, and policy. Authentication, it ties together the visible from address to a DKIM or SPF authentication indicator, right? So it takes these things that are in hidden headers and ties them to the visible from address, making authentication more visible in the inbox, tied to what's visible to the end recipient. Then, second, there, reporting, very important. Reporting lets you see what mail out in the world is using your domain. It could be legitimate mail, it could be spoofed mail. It'll let you identify who out in the world is pretending to send mail as you, or is sending mail pretending to be from you. Now, it can also help you monitor and identify legitimate email, looking for problems with that legitimate email. For example, a DNS failure caused an email authentication DKIM key to be deleted from DNS. Suddenly, legitimate messages coming from a marketing automation platform are no longer being authenticated. That mail's failing. Inbox delivery is going to suffer as a result. DMARC reporting is a very important way to help monitor for and catch those kinds of issues. And then finally, policy. Policy is the thing that lets you say, hey, you get off my lawn. It lets you protect your domain against phishing and spoofing. It lets you tell mailbox providers that I authenticate all of my email messages. And if somebody brings an email message to the door, says it's from me, don't trust it unless it passes those authentication checks. So at its core, the DMARC policy, it's specifically a policy of quarantine or reject, is how you protect your email against phishing and spoofing. By the way, why are we stopping here when this is all about BIMI and logos and boosting engagement? This is because BIMI is built on top of DMARC. BIMI requires DMARC. We'll touch more on that in a minute. So I promise you, we're getting there from DMARC to BIMI. And I think that is a good segue to Dean. If you're still out there, let's start talking about BIMI. Did we lose Dean due to a technical glitch? I can certainly cover this if we need to. All right, Dean, if you're out there, feel free to pop back in. But in the meantime, oh, sorry, get a slide.
Sorry.
Got one of our. No problem, Dean. Were just doing a poll and quiz that I started to gloss slide right on past. I was just ready to jump in and cover the next slide here if we needed to. But if you are back, well, thank you folks for filling out the poll here. We're going to, I think we can end the poll. People are still voting here. We'll give it a second. Good times. Thank you everybody for voting and what your on our DMARC enforcement poll here. We'll give it just one more second. Sounds like just about everybody has voted there. All right. Can we share these results live? I can tell you that is your domain at DMARC enforcement. At 81% of the people who responded said yes, their domain's at DMARC enforcement. So that's great. So you're in a good position to learn about the value of BIMI because that's one of the requirements for BIMI is that you are able to be at DMARC enforcement. And Dean, I think that's a good segue here. That's awful lot of me talking about polls and DMARC. Let's talk about BIMI.
Great, thanks. That's a great intro for what's coming up next. So BIMI, brand indicators for message identification, is what allows your logo to be shown in the inbox and in certain places before the mail is opened, like you see here in this screenshot or this video of a logo here for DigiCert that is shown in mobile devices before the email is actually opened. And you can see that this email really stands out. You know, all the other emails are just letters or initials, but having a logo, having something that's recognizable to your customers helps engagement with those customers and puts your brand out there. That same brand that you use maybe in your email signature, maybe on the side of your building, on your collateral, on your website, is now also available to all your customers, partners, anyone else that you want to interact with over email. This is a standard that has been developed over many, many years and has been operational now for at least 3, 4, maybe 5 years. It is supported by Yahoo, Gmail, Apple, and many others. I think we have a slide coming up on who supports it. Oh, there it is right there. The one that you don't see, and I saw a question come up here, is about Microsoft. Microsoft does not currently support this. However, they're evaluating it. They're looking at it and seeing what the uptake is. But you will see like Google here, which has, what is it, Al, 50 million mailboxes, something like that.
Yep.
This is the big one that everybody wants to get seen in. Of course, Yahoo, Comcast, and some of these others that are local to different countries like GMX in Germany, they're all supporting it, which is great to see. Let's back up one slide, please. So this does require, before you can get this to make it work, it does require DMARC at enforcement. And if you remember from Al's slide, the policy choices are none, quarantine, or reject. It has to be quarantine or reject to make this work. So to get the display here, you need to have either a verified mark certificate, VMC, or a common mark certificate, CMC. And I think we'll talk about the differences in those in a moment. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to actually turn it back to you, and then I'll come back to the differences and what those are all about.
All right, thanks, Dean. So let's talk about BIMI adoption data. If you look at your inbox, you've definitely seen email senders that have logos next to them in the inbox. Well, how many of those are there out in the world? And there's a couple of different ways to sort of slice and dice that data. And we're going to look at it through a couple of different lenses. So I want to start here with this is the big universe of a whole bunch of domains. This is a data set called the top 10 million domains. I have been tracking DNS, email authentication, DMARC, and BIMI, and some other stuff for these domains for a number of years now, going all the way back to mid 2023. And you take that through from mid 2023 to just a couple of months ago. And what we see here in that top 10 million domains, BIMI adoption is either very big or very small, depending on how you think about it. Now, the perspective of it being very small. Now, 29,000, close to 30,000 domains out of 10 million, that seems like a very small number. What is that? 0.3%, something like that. So yes, across a giant universe of domains, that is a very small percentage. But look at the what has changed since I've started tracking this a few years ago, that we are at double the adoption rate. Basically, we've gone from just under 15,000 to just under 30,000 across this universe. So there's data point number one, that BIMI is actually growing. Adoption of these inbox logos is growing by that measure. Now let's look at it through another lens. Let's look at who are the most important domains out there. I mean, it's a little hand wavy, right? I think we're looking at web traffic. There's not necessarily an easy way for me externally to rank them based on email importance. But you've got to make some assumptions here that if web browsing importance, most visited probably correlates with most important brands, most important internet infrastructure, and thus most important or bigger email senders. And so when you look at, for example, the top 500 domains, 20% of those have a BIMI record published. They are utilizing a BIMI logo today. And these are the most important entities as far as the important end, the heavier end of that top 10 million domains. Let's put it through another lens, though, as well. Look at it by instead what percentage of mail or how much mail is being delivered to the mailbox providers that support BIMI logos. For example, Gmail. We took our own data. We can tell how much mail our clients are sending to the different mailbox providers. So we're looking at how much mail our clients are sending to Gmail. Took a 30-day snapshot. That is 31 billion email messages, and more than a third of that, just over a third of that, are getting delivered with a BIMI logo associated with them. That means that in any given month, getting a little bit ahead of myself there, 11 billion messages that our clients are serving to Gmail inboxes with a BIMI logo. So if you look at it there, how much mail, and we're not even the only entity in the world facilitating BIMI. We're certainly one of the leading ones, if I do say so myself. But if you look at the amount of email volume that our clients are sending with a BIMI logo, that means think of how many people see a BIMI logo in their inbox. And that happens 11 billion times in a month just from ValiMail clients and just at Gmail. Keep in mind that Apple, Yahoo, and others also support BIMI. Keep in mind that like I said, there's other vendors out there that are helping clients set up and implement BIMI. But so this is pretty significant, though, to show that there is a lot of mail getting to the inbox with a BIMI logo associated with it. Dean, let's talk about one of the underpinnings there. Speaking of BIMI logo support at a given mailbox provider, and that's mark certificates.
Exactly. So as I mentioned earlier, verified mark certificates are one type of mark certificate. These require a registered trademark in one of 17 approved jurisdictions. This gives you a distinct display in the inbox. So you have not just the logo, but you also get a blue check mark next to the from name that when you hover over it, you get the display that pops up below. The sender has verified that they own the domain and the logo in the image. So this gives recipients a very strong indication that this sender is authentic, not just because they can recognize the unspoofable logo, but they also recognize it from the blue check mark. So this compares to another product called CMC, or Common Mark Certificate. Now, you may not have a trademark, you may have not applied for a trademark yet, but you've been using the logo for a while, at least a year. If this logo has been previously used, and we can find that it's been previously used, you are eligible for a Common Mark Certificate. You do get the logo display as seen below with the Washington Post logo here, but you do not get the blue check mark. So your brand is there. And again, it's an unspoofable logo, and it's only displayed once the criteria are met that we spoke about earlier, like the DMARC criteria. CMCs are currently in Gmail only, but other providers may also be displaying these types of logos. We have a new type of mark coming up soon. I'm going to talk about that on an upcoming slide, I believe. Let me just answer also a question. Here it is. I just want to also answer a question that I put in the chat about whether this displays in mobile and desktop. So you saw in the mobile that the logo is displayed prior to opening the email. In desktop, it's usually opened after, or usually seen after you open the email. Again, it depends on your mailbox client and your mailbox provider, but that's the general gist of how things work. We'll probably do another event in the future that shows, Al's put together a beautiful deck of images that show what it looks like in both mobile and desktop and many different clients. So let's say you don't have a trademark and you haven't been using the logo for a year. What can you do? And this is a use case that we're getting a lot of requests for. So think about a pharmaceutical that's coming out with a new drug. They don't want to get a trademark because they don't want to tip off their competitor. Yet it's a brand new logo. It hasn't been seen in a year. And therefore, they still want to get some type of mark certificate. Also, if you're a retailer or some other type of manufacturer that is coming out with a new product, this is a perfect solution for this. Or, for example, you do have a logo that you use all the time, but it's a holiday season and you want to put some snowflakes behind it or some other modification to the logo that you haven't done before and it's never been seen before. This is the use case for a provisional mark certificate. One of the requirements here is that you have to have a separate trademark that has been around for at least 3 years. So not this trademark, but any other trademark that you have under your company name. If you have a registered trademark for at least 3 years, then you can get a provisional mark certificate. This gives people a path forward so they can start using a mark, get it either registered or get it used for at least a year, and then get a regular CMC or VMC later on.
Thank you, Dean. And I think this is a good opportunity to talk more about ValiMail Amplify, our BIMI solution. So I'll hand it over to you, Mika.
Thank you so much, Al. Yes, exciting moment to talk about our product, which is Amplify. That is our BIMI solution. And I will start with the very first feature that we have, and this is available in all products. So if you already have a ValiMail account, you can absolutely play around with this one. So if we just play the video, we will see the simulation. So you can absolutely add whatever image you want in any format here, just for the purpose of simulation. And you can add there the image as PNG, SVG, or others. You can resize, you can adjust so it's centered. And you can also introduce another domain. If you are curious to know if other domain, or as we are framing here, you can add a competitor domain to see if they have BIMI or not implemented. So when you simulate, we will provide you here the mockup for both desktop and also mobile. And the question that Dean answered here is how it will look like for the desktop version and also for the mobile. So you will have it up front in the mobile, but then when you click on the desktop, you will see your logo and also the blue check mark if it's a BMC. So you can have this mockup. We will provide you also different resources. So we want to be your allies when you are talking about BIMI within your company. So we are generating this specific BIMI case, which is a PDF with all of this information. The mockup will provide you also potential brand impressions according to DMARC data and also other brands that have logo already implemented within the eligible domains. In the meantime, we can play it again, maybe, Al. So we have it kind of in loop. But well, I wanted to share with you, if you already have a ValiMail account, you can go to the BIMI accordion, hit simulator and start simulating your logos. Also play around with different domains if you want and you are curious to know if they already have BIMI implemented. It's always a great moment to showcase your BIMI logo. Even more because the inbox right now, it's really crowded. So if your competitor has BIMI, it's a great moment to don't be behind, and if they don't have, also it's a great moment to be ahead as well. So utilize that feature, which is available for everyone right now. But if you don't have a Ballymail account, this is a fantastic moment to also generate. So if we go to the next slide, please, Al, this is what I was talking in my introduction. I wanted to bring you, oh, thank you for the poll. Let's go and review the poll, the BIMI deployment. Are you planning on BIMI deployment this 2026? Let's see. Yes, 51%, maybe, and no. Cool. Okay, so these are interesting stats. You can absolutely play around with this feature to see if we can convert those no's into a yes, if it's something that you will be interested at some point. And you can always start with a self-asserted, play around with other mailbox providers that are supporting that, like Fastmail and Yahoo, and then jump into the certificate that you will have that BIMI logo in all those BIMI mailbox providers that currently supports BIMI. So great, great. Thank you for that, Paul. So now, yes, do you want to try that BIMI simulator or also start your DMARC journey, your BIMI journey? I wanted to bring you this exclusive and temporary early access for one of our products that we didn't launch yet. It's going to be named Essentials, which is going to help you to reach enforcement in a simplified way and also to get BIMI. At least to start, as I was mentioning, you can start with your self-asserted, you just need your SVG, but then jump into certificate. That would be fantastic. So you can have your logo in every single mailbox provider that it's currently supporting BIMI. So what you will have is that specific URL that you can access. You will be redirected to a form where you can add your details and we will be generating an account for you if you don't have. But if you already have a Ballymail account, you can absolutely fill in that form and we will handle that separately and provide you the respective access so you can start utilizing all these features anyway. In our follow-up email, we will be also sending these URLs so you can introduce all your details and you can create the specific account. We will love for you to have access to these and also share feedback to us so we can improve it, iterate, and help you in the DMARC and also in the BIMI journey mostly. Cool. So we can go there to the new one. So what is Amplify? Amplify, it's our BIMI solution that is currently integrated with Enforce. We can hit play there. It is integrated with our DMARC solution. So you can go to the BIMI accordion, go to Amplify, and you will have all your domains. What is providing you is an easy way to connect BIMI. In this case, I will show you the automated way to connect. So we are not going to be redirecting you to the DNS provider. You will do everything within our platform, so it's embedded, and we are going to connect that NS record from your DNS. You can do the manual way as well. You can go to the DNS provider and do that right away. And also you can add logos. In this case, as you're going to configure BIMI, you can add or an SVG or a PEM file only. So you can have that available. You can provide a logo name and directly add domains here. So you can associate that logo with a domain. If it's a PEM file, we're going to provide only those domains that are supported in that PEM file. So it's easier to configure. In the logo library, you have everything. In this case, I added an SVG, which is a self-asserted, but you can add PEM files over there. From this view, you can also associate the logo with the domain. So you can either manage that association from the logo library or also from the domains. One cool thing that we have in Amplify is that you could have different configuration between the top level domain and the subdomain if you require to have different logos over there. So that it's a possibility as well. You can manage it with different NS records for subdomain and for the top level domain, because for BIMI, similar as DMARC, the BIMI configuration is inheriting from the top level domain to subdomains, but in this case, Amplify will give you that flexibility. So really simple, Amplify, it's allowing you to connect your needed records, really straightforward. Then have your PEM file available, connect those two different parts, and then you will have your logo live. So that is really simple. And again, this is available in that early access product that we are providing to you. So you can start with BIMI right away.
And if you're wondering what's a PEM file, that is if you're an email marketer and go, what the heck is this PEM thing? That's the certificate file that relates to the mark certificate that Dean talked about earlier, and that's actually how that is transmitted, and that's how you take that PEM file and you set it up to be hosted inside of Valamail Amplify or elsewhere, so that it can be a part of that BIMI DNS record. That's part of the whole thing we help you set up with Valamail Amplify.
Thank you, Al. Really important to know that. Yes. Cool. So we can move to the next one. And here's where I'm saying that we love feedback because this feature has been created thanks to feedback from customers, and they wanted to have a dedicated role that has only access to BIMI. So we can play this video where I'm showing how easy it is to set up this role. You can provide the first name, last name, email, and then you have the different user types. In this case, we are naming it marketer because we hear that many marketers are mostly managing BIMI, and they will have access only to BIMI staff. Nothing around DMARC, so they don't have any sort of risk around email authentication. They will receive an invite, they will accept it, and will get access directly into the platform. And this is the view for those marketer roles where they only have the BIMI accordion, which is amplify the table. They can add logos, also same flow over there, but they will not have any access to the account overview or domain configuration for DMARC. So they will have access only for BIMI and all the other related features. As I mentioned, the simulator, but we have a couple of more that are in the BIMI space mostly. So just to recap, Amplify, it's a tool that will help you start with your BIMI journey. And Essentials, that early access program that we are offering to you, it's going to help you reach enforcement also. So hopefully you are able to leverage that. And that was everything for me, my product demo. So back to you, Al.
Thank you, Mika. I love that little that little toolbox there. At first, I thought it was a robot head. I think it could be a robot head. So why would you use Valamail Amplify for BIMI, right? That as bringing it all together, everything Mika showed off there. One connected experience with DigiCert. As I mentioned at the start of it, we at Valamail are part of the DigiCert family, and so that gives us an opportunity to work with you to help streamline this entire process to make it easy to set up and apply for that mark certificate, to go through that process, all the way from that to being able to get at your BIMI record and logos set up inside of our tool. As Mika said, our new BIMI marketer role also makes it easy for folks to manage a logo. So if you're an email marketer and that's only that your specific purview, the specific bit of the universe that you need to care about when it comes to all of this DMARC and BIMI stuff. If that's just BIMI, we can set those permissions and set so that you have access specific to that, as well as our ability to have an easy way in a centralized library to manage and update and deal with the different logos that an enterprise or multi-branded company might have to deal with. Let's talk about the value of BIMI, the specific upsides. Why would you go through this process? Now, there's some prerequisites here that you have to keep in mind. In that mark certificate process, for example, the verified mark certificate, if you want the broadest possible display of your logo across the most mailbox providers, that VMC process is probably the best one for you. But there's multiple different types of certificates, as Dean said, for different ways of doing things depending on your current status of your logo. Additionally, there's that provisional mark certificate that Dean touched on that's brand new, that's just being hammered out final details for how we're going to support that as well. Keep in mind too as well, DMARC, right? At the very top of this thing, I said DMARC is an underpinning, something that BIMI is built on top of DMARC. So DMARC at enforcement, meaning you are protecting your domain against phishing and spoofing. That is required before you can implement BIMI. So if you go through all of this process, you get the mark certificate from DigiCert, you work with ValiMail Amplify to take your logo that you've got trademarked or can demonstrate usage of it, or it fits the other criteria for the different mark certificates. You set that all up. What is the benefit? What do you get from that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glossing over one of the surveys here. I apologize for that. Thank you, everybody, who's clicking on the survey here. Email trust. Who owns email trust in your organization? A lot of folks are saying that that is IT. More than 80%. The votes are still coming in, down to we're still just over 80% of people are saying it's IT owning email trust in their organization. Give that a second there. Thank you, everybody who voted. Appreciate you. Ultimately, did say more than 80% of the people responded with IT, about 83%, and 17% saying marketing responsible for email trust in our organization. And I bet, we could have had a third thing there of it's probably somewhere between the two. There's a lot of cooperation involved in keeping an email ecosystem up and running that supports both the marketing needs and IT and security needs. So, as I mentioned at the start of this thing, that ValiMail is part of the DigiCert family. Talked already about the why that is a good thing for you, how you can help facilitate an easier process to get you through, set up from logo to certificate to publishing your BIMI record. We can help you with all of that. Now, why would you do that? What's the upside there? There are a couple of different business outcomes there. Thinking of the potential for a boost in engagement and interactions, boost in revenue from marketing emails. So that's a marketing success, a significant one. But also for security teams, you're able to demonstrate that your domains are fully protected against phishing and spoofing, and you're getting marketing support and buy-in along the way. You're doing something that benefits the marketing goals and benefits the security needs of the business. And we have plenty of data that shows that what benefit you get from implementing BIMI. Here's one example. This is a ValiMail case study. We unfortunately are not able to name the company, but it's a very big one. It's a very well-known one that is a multi-brand food and beverage company that implemented ValiMail Amplify to do BIMI with a verified mark certificate or set of verified mark certificates for their different domains for their company. And they shared with us anonymized performance data from their email marketing platform. And specifically, in their first full month of BIMI enabled sending, email open rates rose from 53 to 63%. So a 10-point boost, more than a 10% boost, much more than 10% boost, and email engagement stayed elevated, remained consistently strong. We saw significantly positive results. I was one of the folks who talked to the client and helped them understanding the data, the engagement data, open and click data that they're looking at from their sender platform, email sender platform. And we know, email marketers, that open rates can be a little fuzzy. There's a lot of caching and bots talking to bots, preloading, that sort of thing for open rates, but they're still directionally useful to look at to compare A versus B to be able to see is something I'm doing having an impact on specifically engagement response from a recipient. Are they more likely to open a message? We think so, yes. We think that BIMI shows off that trust in the inbox to show that your logo shows, so you stand out, you get that blue check mark with VMC. You are showing off that you are protected, and you're getting an opportunity, another branding opportunity that you didn't have previously. Think of all of the other people sending to the inbox with just their little circles and a couple of letters, but you actually have an opportunity to put your logo here. So that leads to improved brand recognition. And it's not just a single case study. Here is one from DigiCert. Hype Group, a leading e-commerce retailer, implemented BIMI with a verified mark certificate. The results, a significant lift, a 10% lift in their case in open rates. The visible logo and blue check mark help them reinforce authenticity and reduce delete without reading behavior. These are not even the only two success cases. There's a third one that I can think of too that we won't get into too much detail, but I think if you look in the resources section associated with the webinar, I think there should be links to those as well. If not, we'll be sure to include more information on the success cases in the follow-up email that we're going to send you after the fact. So keep in mind that BIMI has significant value both for marketers and for security. It's going to help you show off that your domains are protected. It's going to help you boost engagement, which boosting engagement specifically means more people opening and clicking on your email messages. So if you want to learn more about any of this, and if you want to, for example, check your own domain against our domain checker to see if you're ready to implement BIMI. There's a link to that right there, domain-checker.valamail.com/dmark. And you can go to the Valamail website. That's valamail.com if you want to learn more, including Valamail Monitor. It's a great place to get started to learn more about DMARC. It is free. It is a DMARC reporting platform that'll give you visibility into where email is being sent out in the world with your domain name. Do you know, if there bad guys spoofing and phishing your domain name? Have you ever gotten backscatter or fake bounces from spam that you didn't send and you're wondering what's going on? DMARC reporting, Valamail Monitor helps you understand what's going on out there. And of course, enforce our enterprise level DMARC solution and Valamail Amplify, the BIMI solution that Mika talked about in detail today. And then there's our new friendly partners in crime at digicert.com. You go to digicert.com/VMC, learn more about mark certificates and how you get started with that process, how you implement that. We've even got a coupon code here to help you save 30% off when doing it. I think it seems to be a good time for our final poll. All right, we'll look at some questions here while we wait for that to pop up. If I can find them. Here we go. Oh, okay. I thought we had a poll here, but instead, okay, let's talk about some of the questions here.
Al, I've been answering a lot of the questions, and one that I've been saving for you.
Mhm.
So the question is, what is your prediction for the future of BIMI and its influence within the actual filtering algorithms of the mailbox providers, since AI is going to make it easier for bad actors to take advantage of these things in the future? Do you suspect that this will begin being an influence into these inputs? This could be Al or Mika answering this.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Think about now, AI is, for example, AI is a very important thing when it comes to spam filtering and security filtering, and both from the aspect of the good people trying to protect the inbox and the bad guys trying to get through to the inbox. And so, does BIMI specifically is it one of those filtering decisions? Is spam filtering based on that today? Will it be based on that in the future? By itself as a standalone, it is mailbox providers have a million different rules and a whole bunch of learning and technology involved. So no, it is not based on just is BIMI going to guarantee that your message gets to the inbox? No, it's not. And probably in a more AI driven future, I don't necessarily anticipate that it's gonna do that on its own either. But I will say it is still an important part of doing things right so that you get your mail delivered to the inbox either way. Think about AI related filtering. You don't want the AI to look at it and say, oh, I should let this pass just because there's a BIMI logo there. A bad guy could, in theory, implement a BIMI record and a BIMI logo as well. might not pass the verification process with the mark certificate, but they could self-assert it and do some other stuff, and you wouldn't necessarily want that. And so the trouble with any of these specific technologies is they don't stand alone as the only gateway to goodness or badness. DMARC's a great example of this, in that years ago when DMARC was people behind DMARC were striving to broaden adoption of it. There was some whispering that you would get a little bit of inbox boost if you'd implemented DMARC. Whether or not that's true, I'm not entirely sure. But that's still, we're talking, 10 odd years ago. Today, DMARC is not a guarantee of inbox placement, right? You still have to be a good sender doing the right thing, sending wanted mail to people who actually want that mail, who actually signed up for it. You're not generating spam complaints. You're actually sending interesting mail that people care about. And BIMI helps add on to that. BIMI is not going to be a substitute for sending wanted mail, but it will help your mail get noticed. And if you are a good sender who's doing things right, you get that extra benefit, the greater chance that somebody's going to open and click on your message if they see a BIMI logo. And at some point, too, does it not become sort of a transition um, from hey, you're ahead of the a pack, and nobody else is doing BIMI logo, so you'll get that opportunity to show a logo that other people have not been able to show themselves at some point. So it starts there, but at some point in the future, you look at, as adoption with BIMI is really growing, at some point it could even become, hey, everybody else is doing BIMI in the inbox. Do you want to be the only one in the inbox that doesn't have a logo? A lot of that varies by industry, right? We have our state of DMARC report where we break this down by different industries, and there's a whole bunch of different adoption rates across these different industries. Retail seems to lead a lot of this, but across these different industries, right, there's this opportunity here for BIMI to really sort of take off and help you get to the inbox. Again, that's a long way of saying no, it alone is not going to get you better deliverability, but it's significant.
Let me go to the next question because we're running out of time. The question, and this is for either of you, if someone is trying to use, or if they're using Valimail to do DMARC, if they're coming to you guys to do all that stuff, can they get the VMC through you, or do they have to apply separately through DigiCert? Do you handle all that?
We do. We handle that, and we have our product support team that is also helping through that. So you can nail the BIMI logo requirements mostly. So we can absolutely work with DigiCert to get that certificate, and we will be hosting that within our platform. We are also thinking of introducing a feature that it's going to help you also nail the BIMI requirements as well, but that it's something that we are currently experimenting and thinking of introducing also. But yes, definitely we can handle that and work with our product support team to get that certificate for you all.
Great. And one last question. So somebody made a comment about a DMARC record that has the RUF record seems to be invalid. It's for hbomax.com. I actually plugged it into your deep domain checker while you were talking. And the DMARC record does show that it's a valid DMARC record. It says P equals quarantine. But the RUF record seems invalid. Does that invalidate the ability to show the logo?
I don't think it does. I suspect it's not a problem, but anytime there is a potential error in the formatting of a DMARC record, I think we probably want to look at that and fix it. But no, I don't know that I have seen a problem with with a rough record, RUF forensic record, causing a BIMI logo not to display. I know, for example, it is HBO Max. I know their logo shows, so that's definitely something to check because we should fix it. I think, and the broader question there too around forensic reporting is DMARC has this thing called forensic or failure reporting that will send back whole copies of failed messages. It is both useful for troubleshooting certain instances and also kind of a privacy nightmare, depending on who you ask about that. So, in the latest version of DMARC called DMARC Biz, I think actually this forensic reporting is even deprecated. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of mailbox providers do not send forensic reports. In particular, European ones because of concerns around privacy and GDPR, though even some US or global ones don't send similarly because of privacy concerns. So if you were thinking you're looking at the DMARC spec and doing it yourself or working with us and you want us to enable forensic reporting, can we do it? Yes, but do we recommend it? Not necessarily because it's not they're not often found and there are privacy concerns around them.
Okay, another question is they're using Valamail, but the mail server is Microsoft. Can they still implement BIMI? And if yes, how does that work?
Yes. Mika, would you like to answer that?
Yes, I would like to reinforce. Well, we do have one tool within our platform that it's BIMI Audience Insights. So that is going to give you visibility into which are your recipients. So you can see the distribution to see if you are getting into inboxes that are supporting BIMI or not, basically. That is a fantastic tool to see how BIMI is going to impact your audience mostly. But you can absolutely implement BIMI, even if you have Microsoft, and you will have your BIMI logo appearing in all those mailboxes that Dean was sharing with all of us that are currently supporting BIMI, which are mostly Yahoo, Google, Fastmail, and there are multiple of others. So yes, you can absolutely implement BIMI even though you have Microsoft. Al, do you want to add something else about that?
I do. I'll try to keep it quick here. I know we're running out of time. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why doesn't Microsoft support BIMI? And of course, I can't speak for Microsoft, but you got to assume that any company doing a lot of important things has competing priorities, and it's not always easy for them to put everything they might want to do at the top of the list. Will they support BIMI in the future? They haven't announced anything. There's nothing like that. There's no secret handshake that we can give you to sort of pass along there. But if you are a Microsoft client, be sure to give feedback to Microsoft via your account manager or other teams you deal with to make sure that they know that you are interested in seeing a BIMI logo. Part of sort of what we do, what we hope to do with our own BIMI data that we've shared with you earlier in this presentation is to be able to demonstrate to other mailbox providers that don't support it today that it is valuable, that is something that they ought to consider supporting. So we hope to see that support grow for more in the future.
And with that, we are at the end of our questions. So, Al, I'm going to turn it back to you to wrap this thing up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any feedback about our webinar, you can always drop me an email directly at al.iverson@valamail.com. I believe we will be following up with you with an email with that recording. We'll invite your feedback via that as well. And thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you found this interesting, useful, valuable. Don't forget to visit our website, digicert.com, valamail.com. Thanks and have a good one.